at 38 million people in our broadcast area. 38 million. At the end of March, there is one market, Waco, Texas, and that was fully supported by one congregation. That we talked with them. It was time for renewal, and they're actually starting up a school of preaching that congregation is going to oversee, and as a result, they've had to cut back a lot of the works, including the television broadcast. But they love the program, love what it was able to do, but just have to ship the funds elsewhere. So Waco is going to go away at the end of March. Not something that we like to have happen, but we're kind of stuck in that situation, given what's happened. But we have a new market coming on board. Starting April the 3rd, we'll be adding the Atlanta, Georgia market, and that covers a lot of area and a lot of territory, and I believe that brings us up to 44 million souls when we add that one. Atlanta has been a difficult market we've been on in the past, had just a little bit of support, but never able to cover the cost of that market. There's another program that was there, had one congregation, said we'll pay the whole bill for the first year, but you have to find some additional supporters. And they were never able to do that. So we've talked with them. They're very interested in working with us. Our past supporters are interested, and we've talked to several other congregations who are showing some interest. So it looks like we're going to be able to get this raised to be able to cover the costs there in Atlanta. Gives me a little bit of a heart attack. I mean, that 72,000 gives Jim a heart attack. This one gives me a little bit of a heart attack because that's on top of what we have there. But this seems to be coming in fairly easy. There's a couple of markets that we're still working on that we don't have funded from before. One of them is the Knoxville market, and we last time I was here, we all put our heads together and figured out some places that we could talk to, and made some phone calls and sent letters and sent brochures and information, and that is looking promising that we're going to be able to find the rest of the funding for that market and keep it going. The other one is Memphis. Got one appointment already set, working on some others to try and get the rest of the funding for that market as well. But those are really the only two that we have that are draining us at this point, unless, Micah, any others that you can think of? Those were the two major ones that we were looking at, so those are the two that were obviously the most concerned. So as we look at Atlanta, kind of an interesting situation that we have there. We're on WATC, which is a full power station. We'll be on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, which is, I mean, that is prime time for religious programming. That is, if I had my choice of any time that we could have, 8 o'clock would be top of the list, and that's what we have. Right before us at 7:30 is a program called Let the Bible Speak. And that's done by members of the church who are non-cooperative. Not sure exactly how that works with doing a TV program, because they have a lot of congregations that participate, but yeah, it doesn't make sense. There was one earlier that I had heard of, and this was just in Arkansas. They talked to the same broker that we use, and they said, well, we'd like to do a program. How about this? How about we all send individual checks to you every month, and there'll be 20 of us sending checks. And it's like, well, can't you just send to one congregation? And no. So somehow they've got this figured out, bless their hearts, and they're on at 7:30. We're going to come right after that at 8 o'clock. Also at 7:30 on a different channel, WPA, is where Search is. So we're not crossing over any other programs of the Lord's Church, which is a good thing. This is also the station that Larry Acuff uses. He's got his Fountain of Life program that's there on the same station. He comes on 7 o'clock Saturday morning, which I scratch my head and say, well, that's not a real good time. but Larry has had fantastic success with that and has a good following. So the station really does have potential for us. And Larry's program is one that is just amazing in the number of Bible correspondence courses he gets from his program. There at Lithia Springs, they just have a flood of Bible correspondence courses coming in, and a lot of good being done by that program, as is with ours as well. Our Bible correspondence course program is nothing to be ashamed of at all. So what does our map look like? This is everything together, and what we're missing here is a little bit over the the Norfolk market over here in eastern Virginia. You can't see it there. You could see it on these monitors, or if you want to turn around, you can see it back there. So we have both ends of Virginia covered there. So this is, again, over 40 million souls that we're able to reach in these markets. Where do we go from here? Where do we add from here? Well, there's a few markets in blue here that just kind of make sense for us. And 3 of these are filling in holes that we have. Hattiesburg, Mississippi, there in the Mississippi Delta, and Jackson, Tennessee are 3 of them that, I mean, they're holes and they can be filled. Each one of them has their challenges. All 3 of them are fairly small markets, and airtime is relatively through the roof expensive. So it's going to take a lot of local congregations getting behind it to be able to do that. And in those 3, there's not a lot of available time either. And I'll throw Bowling Green, Kentucky is another market like that, these markets that are fairly small tend to be the hardest ones to get into. And part of the reason for that is they'll have one television station owner, and like on channel 11.1, they'll have their ABC signal. 11.2 will be NBC. 11.3 will be CBS. 11.4 will be Fox. They control the market. And when they have control of the market, if you want to get in there, you've got to pay what they're asking for. Otherwise, okay, go somewhere else. And it really gives them a monopoly in situations like that. So those are tough ones to get into. Jackson, Tennessee especially, programs there, they've been going for 10, 15, 20 years in their same time slots. So that market's really, really full. One that I'm excited about, St. Louis. There's several congregations up there. I saw one of the preachers from that area at the Freed Hardeman lectures just a couple weeks ago. Young man that his grandmother, Wanda, used to work at GBN. And I've known his wife's family for many years, and his wife's actually one of my daughter's dear friends. And he said, oh yeah, we don't have many programs here in our congregation. We're looking for something. And are there other congregations you can get involved? And he named off like 7 congregations, like-minded, that would love to get together with them and do it. That's the good news. The bad news is, as I was driving over, I talked to our media buyer, and there's no time available in St. Louis right now. So we're just kind of sitting there on hold for right now, waiting for some time to be available. The good news is the media buyer that we use, that I've worked with for 18 years now, and I think Jim goes back even further with Eric, has done just a fantastic job. And most programs of the Lord's Church, he's the one buying the airtime for us. He also works with a bunch of denominational groups as well, but he's got a couple of renewals coming up in St. Louis, where renegotiating the contract, and that's a time that he has leverage with the TV stations. And you know, one thing I found, you're in all these markets and you've worked with the broker for 18 years, you get a little bit of benefit there. And he's going to try and use that leverage to get us in a time in St. Louis. So that's kind of on hold for right now, but as soon as he says, hey, I've got something, looks like it's coming together, Tony, I'm off to St. Louis. Just as quick as I can, and try and put that one together. But that's a market that just really makes sense for us. Again, goes right up against the Paducah market that we already have. Jonesboro, Arkansas is another market that kind of fits in a little hole that we have there. Savannah, Georgia, again, pushing us contiguous to what we have and pushing us up there. There's several good congregations in that market. That's one direction I'd like to think about, that we have some possibilities there. And another one right over here, Shreveport, which is a fairly good-sized market, and that there's usually not a whole lot of airtime available, but there just happens to be some airtime available right now. And literally it was Sunday night, I was there in Louisiana. That's where my in-laws live, and my father-in-law, who preaches there in Faraday, Louisiana, he's like, when are we going to get Shreveport? When are we going to get Shreveport? I said, well, you know, we've got a little bit of fundraising to do, but that's on the radar. We'll get there. He's like, okay, well, you let me know, because we need to get the program on up there. And so every time I've talked to him since then, you got Shreveport figured out yet? You going to get up to Shreveport? So I don't think I'm going to get a day without getting nagged about Shreveport here for a while, which is a good thing. But that excitement, when somebody in the area is excited about it and willing to talk to congregations and help us out, that's when the funds really they come easy, so to speak, when you have somebody else who's also there beside you arguing the case. Before we get on to this, can we go ahead and pull up that video real quick and just start playing it where it is? We don't have any audio for this. But I just wanted to kind of show you this. Yeah, we can just hit play there. Okay, we do have audio. If you want to go ahead and go all the way back to the beginning. And this is good for, this is to bring the lectureships and things like that. That big map that we have, it communicates a little bit, but doesn't communicate everything. And what we tried to do is give details in all these different markets. Trying to let people know, oh, that's where I live. Okay, that's where I can see the buildings. Very thankful. Going through this and seeing areas that I can plug this. Nobody stopped them. This something that they want to do. You want to go ahead and start it from the beginning, if it'll let us do that. The video file's there on the desktop, if that would be the easier way to do it. Oh, well, if it doesn't want to go, it doesn't want to go. You can just pull the PowerPoint back up and we'll run from there. Okay. The beginning of that video was just, we kind of did like a Reader's Digest version of one of the episodes where people could see just a little snippet from each of the different segments before that. So as we talk about the different segments in the program, I keep hearing everywhere I go, people absolutely love Jim's new sound word segments. That is, hands down, the segment right now I get the most compliments about. So I'm just absolutely tickled about that. And Jim knows this. I'm not telling him anything he doesn't know, but I want him to keep doing those as long as he's able to do that and keep him going. And when he's no longer able to do that, then we'll start doing reruns. But those are just absolutely outstanding, and so many good comments about that. Repairing our understanding. Last Wednesday night, you all had a visitor here, Troy Spradlin, and he and I talked for a while, once he got back, and he called me up on Monday and said, I just got to tell you, wow. He said, that was far beyond my wildest dreams. Said that, the apartment, the studio, the staff, the congregation, the eldership. Wow. He said it was just amazing and so complimentary about everything. And his segments, I've seen the first one, and it looks good. And I think we're going to have a great segment going forward. As I've talked to, just this last week kind of floated, oh, by the way, Troy's doing a new segment for us. And people were, yeah, all right, can't wait to see that because of what he's done for us in the Have a Bible Question segment. So that's incredibly encouraging, and thought you guys needed to hear what Troy said about this congregation and everything. The staff working with them was, he said just made his job so easy. And he and his wife, Andrea, can't wait to come back, which is exactly what we love to hear. The Q&A segments, we've had Have a Bible Question at the end of the program. That one is no longer in production. So we've got to find a replacement for it. There's some things we talked about, some speakers that we really want to get into the studio and do some things. We've got some grid work we have to do in the old part of the studio to accommodate the program. But what we're thinking is to set it up so the set of it looks a lot like the old Have a Bible Question set, but it'll be there in the old part of the studio, and Adam Vaughn, who's our producer, will actually be right there, and you'll see the back of his head while he's working. And just have two guys with the microphones at the table going back and forth, just like we had in Have a Bible Question. The two guys that we're working through this with are Eric Garner, who preaches over in Ooltewah, and then Cameron Freeman, who's over there in the Memphis area as well. Two excellent brothers, and I'll go out and say that 50 years from now, looking at those two, it's like, oh, those are like the Jim Dearmans of yesterday. Just two excellent brothers. Love and appreciate them both. But we don't want to stop there. We want to keep going and get possibly some more segments like that going as well. Very possibly out in Texas. If you remember the map, we're kind of sparse in Texas. But if we get a few speakers from that way, it gives people a reason there to pay attention to the program, and we can use that to help expand. I lived in Texas for about 10 years, doing television work for 8 of those years, and got to know a lot of people out there, and some excellent brethren. So very possibly doing a Q&A segment out there. In addition, there's a brother who's originally from El Salvador, who's actually the director of the Spanish program, School of Preaching out there. Talked to him about doing a program for us in English, but Willie has his Spanish accent, and again, it appeals people who have that background. It's like, oh, here's somebody who looks like me, who talks like me, and then we can get that. They can relate to that. And I think that's something that'll help us, especially as we get into some of these new markets where the demographics are a little different than they are in Tennessee, and helps us to get there. We're also working, Leroy Dedman, his wife Jane is not doing well, and he's not been able to record for a while. Honestly, his program, his segments that he's done, we've been through each one of them at least 3 times now, which the proverbial videotape's getting stretched a little bit thin there. So we're working on trying to get some replacement for that, and get somebody else to come in and do some segments, not to replace Leroy, because the deal with Leroy is when he's able to come back and record, come on in, and but just trying to add again some more that segment that kind of has the old time feel. I mean, we had Tom Holland and his Tom's Pastime Porch, and if you don't get our feed on your Facebook, check it out, because every other Saturday a new Tom's Pastime Porch shows up on Facebook. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and look at that. As a matter of fact, every day of the week we're dropping something on Facebook, a video of some sort. So, you might see Cody Boston, you might see Jim Dearman, you might see Freddie. Bless your heart. But all the different segments, I mean, we've got such a supply of those, putting those out there. They're out there on Facebook, they're on the apps, they're on the website. Trying to get people to utilize those and see those. And Facebook just, again, puts it out there once a day. And, a few hundred people see it, a few hundred people see it, a few hundred people see it. You know how much that costs us? Nothing. But it gets the gospel message out. And the more people who see it, like it, share it, make a comment, and that boosts it in Facebook says, oh, this is something that people are interested in. So then it'll show up on more people's feeds. And the more you do that with anything the church does, the more people see it. So that's kind of where we are on the segments. Current needs, where do we need to spend time focusing? Well, you can ask Tony, who's my coordinating elder, so I'm allowed to pick on him now from the pulpit. And he will tell you Mark's #1 priority is raise support for these new markets. Get that monthly support in. See, I can say it because he doesn't even have to say it. Need to get that in. So that is #1. How do we do that? Well, a lot of it's kind of the old-fashioned way. You gotta hit the streets and visit those congregations, and you gotta shake hands, and you gotta kiss the babies, and be seen, and let people know about the program. So there's a lot of that. Going to lectureships. We were at Freed Hardeman just a couple weeks ago. Memphis School of Preaching lectures, be there here that's the last week of March. And then toward the end of April, the lectures at Carnes, be there. Polishing the pulpit for sure, that's another big one. I know some here will be there, and that's a great way to get contacts with congregations. And that's what we're trying to do, get those contacts, and then make those visits. A lot of these appointments that I've had here lately are from contacts made while we were at Freed Hardeman. Enough to keep me going, and I'm pretty much booked up through the end of April, so I'm working now on May, June, July, trying to fill those up, getting to places we need to get to. One of the things that, as we look for support, we're looking for the breadth of support. It's great when you have one congregation like in Waco, that one phone call, the entire market's covered for a year. But the old saying, easy come, easy go. Because that phone call, is great, first phone call, and then that last phone call, we're not able to keep doing this. And then you lose the whole market. But when you have 5, 6 congregations in a market that are funding it, you lose one, you've lost 1/6. We still have 5, 6 of it there. We just have to replace a little piece instead of the whole piece. So it makes a difference. The breadth of support is something that's really important to us long term. The more people we can have helping, the harder it is to lose it, and the longer term we can stay in a market. And that's important, to be in a market for a long period of time, because honestly, the first 6 months, the general rule of thumb is don't expect much response. I'm thankful we've had response already from some of these new markets we've gone into. Part of the reason for that is because Have a Bible Question was there. We took their time slot. Members of the church, people who were used to watching that, okay, here's this program. Oh, okay. Hey, I like what they're saying. And they just stuck on. And other people who are not members of the church who've responded said, hey, I want to sign up for a Bible correspondence course. They like that program. They like our program. So we're benefiting from the audience that they had, kind of carrying that forward. But in these new markets, we're going to have to build it from scratch. And it usually takes about 6 months to start seeing results. When you're there 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, people, Sunday morning, that's the program I watch. And, they may get their neighbor to watch the program. And a year later, that neighbor gets somebody else to watch the program, and somebody else, and somebody else. And the audience builds that way. The other way is to throw a whole lot of money into advertising, which we don't have. And I'm not sure that's a good use of the Lord's money to try to do that. So that breadth of support, getting as many people to get that long-term in the market, really is important. And I'll ask you this. Would you consider helping? One of the things that I'm doing is going around places with my hand open, begging for money. If you'd like to, as a family, I will put this asterisk there. Do not take away from your contribution to the congregation. If I found out anybody did that, I'm coming after you. But if you would like to give in addition to that, you can go onto the website on the left-hand side. There's a thing for members of the church, and you can have it automatically drafted from your checking account or from your credit card. Do that once a month. And this is not just for people who want to donate hundreds of dollars. If you can afford $5 a month, that's $5 a month that's raised. $10 a month, whatever. But just something to think about. Would you consider just go there on the website and you set it once and you can forget about it. It just every month will happen automatically if you put recurring on there. The other thing, and this is specifically for members here, our Bible correspondence courses. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We've got, 30 members that are involved in grading these. That's phenomenal. And as you go through that process, I'd just like for everybody to realize how important of a job that really is. This person has watched the program, has liked what they saw, and then wants to take it to the next step. And that's to take this Bible correspondence course. And through that course, you have an opportunity to develop a relationship with that person. And I realize that we're grading the course and we're sending them the next one. But through that, put a note in, handwritten note, encouragement. Hey, you're doing great. This is wonderful. Oh, I can tell that you've got your Bible open, you're working at this. Encourage them. Do what you can to try to prompt them, because the goal is to when they get that, to excite them, and I want to do that next course. And when they do that next, and do the next one, and work their way through all the courses. And then that critical piece, as I'm going to congregations, I'm telling them that our ultimate goal is to turn viewers into visitors. We want to get them through the doors of the church building. And honestly, that's really all you could expect from a television program. Occasionally we get folks who take the Bible correspondence course and say, psh, and they show up, and I've seen this before, show up at a church building with their towel ready to be baptized. That's great when it happens. But more times than not, people who are baptized because of television programs, it's when you go places, and you can ask Jim on this, you go somewhere and you're holding a gospel meeting, and they say, oh, I saw you on television. I took that Bible correspondence course and I came here and I was baptized 3 years ago. That is a common occurrence, that people engage with the program, get connected to a congregation, and then the work of conversion really gets going. So we're trying to turn viewers into visitors as best we can. And with that, I will admit right here, I am speaking to the choir. My experience when I first came here, and talking to Troy and his experience when he came here, that is a friendly congregation. To your credit. Keep up the good work. When you see that unfamiliar face and your hand goes out, that means so very much. And as we strive to turn viewers into visitors, that's an important part of the process. Where do we go from here? This is a dream that I have, and I think I talked about this here before. Okay, the Diginets, that has not gone off the radar, but it's got pushed back a little bit because, as Tony will tell you, I got 12 markets I need to get paid for. But as we look long term, these Diginets are not going away, and that's a way to get into literally hundreds of markets just like that, and get us from being mostly in the Southeast to being nationwide. And Get TV, the one that the stations are marked here, this one is particularly appealing. Of the 50 largest television markets in the country, they're on in 49 of them. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Miami, San Francisco, Denver. I mean, it's just amazing the coverage that you can get from these. So that's something we're very much looking forward to. Stay in touch, Facebook, Instagram, and our weekly email. If you don't get the weekly email, I've got sheets on the table back there. Sign up for it. What you'll get every week, you'll get it on Friday, and the top part of it, you know, this week's passage for devotional time is going to be 1 Corinthians 15, verses 8 through 14, or whatever it is. Then you're going to see Freddie Clayton, his face, and Freddie's going to be talking about this. And then Jim's going to be talking about that, and Cody's going to be talking about this. And our Bible question for the week is that. And then the second section, I mean, that's information if you want to read about that and see who's going to be on and what they're talking about, great. But the second section, as we're putting the program together, sometimes, and I try to have just a little bit of a theme to the program. Not completely, but there's a little bit of a theme to it. And last week, we talked about the cessation of miracles several different times in the program. And that second section of the email was, okay, based upon what we're talking about, here's how to approach somebody and talk to them about that. Here's how you can be evangelistic with your neighbors, tell them about the program, and get a response favorable. And then the last blurb is a little bit of news about the program. You know, this last week we talked about Troy's new segment. So news like that, that's the first place you're ever going to hear about it, is there at the bottom of the email. And I hope and pray that Micah doesn't hear about it first in the bottom of the email, but usually try to tell her ahead of time. So there's all that information that you get every week. I would encourage you sign up for that, and you get, if nothing else, you get that weekly reminder. Hey, here's how I can be evangelistic. Here's how I can talk to somebody. You know, we're coming up on the Lent season. We're coming up on Easter. Big thing in denominations, how do you talk about it? Get the email and find out about that. Those sign-up sheets are in the back. And how much time do we have? Have we used all our time up?
4 minutes. I want to say something like
Okay. 4 minutes, we'll let Jim say something. I guess this is like the rebuttal last night?
Now, that was a great report. I just was thinking of something, a couple of things. One thing that Mark's not aware of, and that is about Troy. And I just wanted to make the congregation aware that while Troy was here, we discovered that he has expertise in audiovisual setups. And so we asked him if he would give us some input on our setup that we're in the process of changing. And not only did he agree to do that, but today I got the email and it went to CJ and Lanny and Robert Farmer and others. You may have seen it, but it was a thorough presentation, professionally done, multiple pages on options for us in terms. I mean, there's no telling how much time he spent on it, all, you know, free of charge to us. And I just wanted the congregation to be aware of that Troy has helped us tremendously. And we are in the process, as you can see. You know, we're not quite on the screen at times with things. We're expanding, and things are going to be changing with a brighter projector, et cetera. And Troy has been very helpful, as our brethren here have and are, in implementing this. But I just wanted to make you aware of that he has helped us tremendously, and we're in the process of making those changes. But also, two things, in my experience, and Mark knows this as well. You saw the map of the Southeast and the great coverage that we have in the Southeast, and something that might come to your mind is, well, the church is so plentiful in the Southeast, and what about these other areas in the other part of the United States where we don't have as much coverage? Well, We don't have as much broadcast coverage in those areas, granted. But the Get TV map that he showed, that is the dream that hopefully will one day become a reality, would give us that coverage. But where will we get the support primarily to make that wider coverage a reality? It'll come from the churches in the Southeast who can see the program where that coverage is extensive. And if they can't see the program, chances are they're not going to support the program financially. So that's an important combination to keep in mind, that we've got to blanket the Southeast as much as possible for two reasons: souls that are there, but also the support that is there where the church is strongest to help us make that Get TV dream a reality, as well as other projects. But at the same time, don't lose sight of the fact that even though we don't have those broadcast stations in those other states like we do in the Southeast, we do have the internet, we do have Roku TV, we do have Apple TV, we do have the podcast, we do have all of these wonderful things that Mark has brought to us and made a reality. So I just wanted to make that point. And you can see Freddie in very odd places. I spent a little time in the emergency room today, and they told me you can watch TV here. So I started flipping, and there was Freddie Clayton. I went into AFib immediately when I saw him. I would have been out of there an hour or two earlier if it hadn't been for that. But on Channel 18, it turns out that not only are we on here on Sunday mornings early, but apparently they put us on at 9 o'clock on Wednesdays, because that's when I saw it today. And it was great to see Good News Today in the emergency room, and it was great to see Freddie, who came to see me. I love him.